What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 56. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate everybody coming back and listening to another episode. On this week's episode, we're actually going to be covering a movie from 2023. As of me recording this, we're still a couple of weeks into 2024, so that means there's really not a lot of movies coming out in theaters. So I thought it was a great opportunity for me to just kind of do a little catch up on films that I did not get a chance to see last year in 2023. One of those being the film that we're covering today, and that's Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. It was a film that ended up coming out kind of closer to the end of the year. It got a lot of different buzz for, the Oscars and the Golden Globes. And again, I just didn't get a chance to check it out in theaters. But now, again, I was able to kind of go and watch this film. And hopefully I can give you my initial thoughts in regards to, what I thought about Poor Things, what I thought about the performances, what were some nitpicks and cons, and kind of give you a general idea whether I would recommend you watch this movie, as well as if it's a timeless one as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. Before I actually went to go watch this movie, all I had really seen was a couple of trailers here and there for the film. I knew that it was about almost like a Frankenstein type of a tale, but more modernized as well, from the vision of Yorgos Lanthimos. Haven't seen a lot of films from him, but I have heard that it kind of has this very kind of unique type of a style. Other than that, didn't really have a lot of different expectations. I just saw that it was included Emma Stone, as well as Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe, and so I got super excited because all those three actors are incredible at what they do. So I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and give it a shot. All right, well, I got a chance to go ahead and check out Poor Things in theaters, and overall, I had a fun and great time watching this movie. It was, very wacky. It was very out there. I had seen a couple of interviews of Emma Stone as well as Mark Ruffalo kind of explaining what they had to do to kind of prepare for their roles. And it just seemed so kind of out of the box as to what they normally would do to kind of prepare for a specific role. But you could see that kind of portrayed on the big screen. You have this story of Bella Baxter, which is played by Emma Stone. It is basically a tale of this young lady who is brought back to life by a weird doctor scientist called Godwin Baxter. Godwin Baxter is played by the great Willem Dafoe. She gets brought back, and at the beginning of the movie, you're not really sure why she's brought back. You're not sure why she's acting like a little kid or a baby. As the movie goes along, though, you start kind of seeing the different types of reasonings and understandings behind, well, why was she brought back? Why is she acting the way she's acting? Or how come she's picking up different types of tendencies? Or how come she walks very weird or she can't get her balancing right? And all of that is eventually explained in the movie, but that's one of the things that I really enjoyed is the mystery aspect of like, well, what the heck is really going on in this movie? It's so out there. It's so different from what you would normally see from like a superhero movie or some type of a movie based on true events. And so I really appreciated that. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the pros that I had for Poor Things. The first pro that I have is, like I just mentioned, the wackiness of this film made it so funny for me. Again, it is kind of categorized as a type of comedy. There's still a lot of drama in regards to it, but to me, it just had so many hilarious parts. Whether it's Emma Stone, again, acting almost like as a very young child, trying to get her feet under her, trying to understand how to walk, trying to understand the world around her. And her innocence is kind of what makes it so funny because of the different interactions that she has with different characters, the way that she's able to kind of say these different types of lines and deliver it in a way that, like, yeah, somebody that is completely unknown of what's outside of her world would say something like that. And it just sounds hilarious. Whether it's Mark Ruffalo, who in this film ended up playing this kind of like, how I would describe him as like a very suave type of a man. Like, he played Duncan Wedderburn, and he tried to seduce Bella Baxter and early on in the movie. He just had some great, hilarious lines as well. His delivery was so just on point, whether it was him making these very funny facial expressions with his mustache, whether it was him kind of like slamming his head on the bar because of a situation that had occurred, every little thing that he would do when he was with Bella Baxter, it was just so freaking hilarious, and I loved it. And then just, different characters here and there as well. You had, again, Godwin Baxter, who was played by Willem Dafoe, who had all these kind of very it was very dark lines of like how he was tortured by his dad, but the way that Willem Dafoe would deliver it was just, again, it was very much like a joke. Then you also had Rami Youssef, who played Max McCandles. Max ended up becoming the husband of Bella Baxter later on in the film. But even Max had these hilarious lines. He became almost like an apprentice to Dr. Godwin Baxter, and he would go in and try to research Bella Baxter. But there was a lot of times where he would just kind of say these like, what kind of lines? And he would just respond, because he, I think, was kind of like, from the audience's perspective, what the heck was going on? Why is Bella Baxter, a acting like a child or acting like a baby? Why does Godwin Baxter care for her so much and to bring her back? What is the meaning of all this? It's almost like Max McCandles in this film is kind of the audience from that perspective. You're also questioning. You're like, what? Like, what is going on? What's the meaning of this? What's the whole reasoning behind all of this? And it all eventually gets explained in a cool way as well. So again, I will say that one of my biggest pros is that how funny and hilarious this movie is. All of the actors did such a great job, and also got to give it up for the director Yorgos as well, for him and the writing team, for the dialogue that was set up in this film as well. Second pro that I had was the actual arc of Bella Baxter. So, like I mentioned before, and I've kind of thrown a little bit of tidbits here and there, in this film, Emma Stone plays Bella Baxter, and she has to play the character in a way that, she ends up being brought back to life. She doesn't know why she was brought back to life, but she just kind of has this kind of almost like she has to rework everything. She has to rework how she eats, how she tries to talk, how she tries to walk, all this different stuff. And so you see that evolution from her character all the way to the end of the film, where she now becomes more sophisticated. She reads, she knows exactly what she needs to do to either help people or be able to help her family in some type of a way. But it's just such a cool way that you see her kind of evolve, because again, she really is like an innocent child. Think of it that way. Think of it like as an innocent child in a grown person's body, and they're trying to understand the world. And for majority of her early years, she never saw the outside world because Godwin Baxter didn't want her to see, didn't want her to be scared and to be troubled by what was outside. And eventually that curiosity eventually ends up getting her to be able to explore the world, and that's what she wanted to do. She just wanted to understand, what is this world? What can I do besides just being in this lab or being here with my so-called father in Godwin Baxter? And she gets to explore the world, either with Duncan, either with other characters that end up coming out in the film. But just her arc of how she evolved, and you can see that from the first time you see her on screen acting like a kid, and then you see her at the end of the film where she is now basically the woman that she envisions herself to be. Somebody that wants to help people, somebody that just wants to continue to explore and to learn more. And I thought that was super cool at how they portrayed it. And that was really just one of my favorite parts. And obviously the main reason why this film is getting such great reviews is just that very cool arc of seeing her evolve in front of your eyes. Depending on if she learns it from her father, if she learns it from other individuals that are in her life. But it's just such a cool arc that kind of all portrays all the way to the end as well. So again, a great job by Emma Stone in that performance. Third pro that I have in this film is the setting of Poor Things. Again, it's not based on anything in particular, but the styles of the set that they used whenever they're walking around, it was so cool and so unique. It almost kind of, I know that I'm probably going to not make a great connection to this, because again, I don't have really a good type of understanding of art and the different types of aspects of how set designs are created, but it almost reminds me of kind of like a Tim Burton type of a style of art, where you might see that kind of like in Beetlejuice, or like even in the early Batman films. How Gotham looked like, all like tall skyscrapers and buildings. In this kind of area of the film, you kind of see all these different types of set designs, all these different types of buildings. They live in London, but she gets to explore other places throughout the world, like in Paris. She gets to explore, a cruise ship, but everything in the film is designed in such a unique way. And what I loved most is everything was practical, or at least it seemed practical. You see all these different types of buildings. They walk from one place to another on the streets. They're having conversations out in the open, and everything looks real. Nothing looks CGI related. Nothing looks like it's using visual effects. And so there's a lot of great stuff that's kind of shown in there. And I think it helps me as an audience member just kind of just get more and more invested in the world of Poor Things, because when everything feels real and it seems like it's real, then it just kind of lets you kind of forget about everything else that's going on, and it lets you focus on, okay, I am in this universe now, paying attention to every little detail. And so I really love that, because there's a lot of times where films will provide too much CGI or provide too much visual effects where it might take you out of it, because now you're looking at those details and you're saying, that looks too real, or nah, that doesn't look real enough. And here, you don't question that, because you know that everything in this set that they're walking around, everything that Bella does or tries to walk around and understand is real. It's real to her, which means that it's real to the audience. And so I love it when films are able to kind of use a lot of more practical effects, because again, it just allows the audience to kind of really focus in on, okay, now I don't really have to focus on the visual effects or seeing the CGI. I can just focus on Bella Baxter and see what she's doing in this world of Poor Things. Other than that, again, I don't really have that many cons. For nitpicks, I would just say that although the film is wacky and it's funny, and again, that was one of my pros, I will say that there are parts where it could get too wacky or too out of the ordinary, where it just kind of could make you a little bit uncomfortable. There's a lot of nudity, a lot of sex scenes. That really doesn't really bother me from that sense of it. But there are situations where it could kind of make you a little bit uncomfortable in regards to the type of men that she ends up seeing while she's having sex with them, in these different types of situations, let's say. I don't want to spoil too much of it so that you guys can experience it, but there's a lot of different kind of choices that they made. Maybe they stuck on it too long, or maybe just for certain moments it just kind of made me a little bit uncomfortable. Just how wacky it could get. Again, not a con that would say, okay, this movie is terrible. No way. This movie is still really good. It tells a great story. Again, it goes out there with a lot of different ideas. Again, for some folks, it probably works really good. For other folks, it might maybe not be your cup of tea as well. Again, for me, I thought the movie was really cool. Again, there's just certain parts where it might drag on a little too much on the wacky side, where, again, it just could make you a little bit uncomfortable, like, okay, well, what's the point of this? But there's not too many of those. Other than that, again, I really enjoyed Poor Things. It was a really cool story. I just really thought it was awesome to kind of see how Bella was able to change from being, again, really baby at the beginning, and then kind of leading up to the end where, again, she's not changed by the world. Rather, she's kind of evolving and growing with the world. She's trying to understand, okay, well, you know what? I'm trying to help as many people as I can. I might not be able to help everybody just because it might not be feasible. And you have cynics telling her that you can't change the world, but she's still going to try. She just does not waver against anything, and she just tries to make sure that she's helping as many people as possible. And so it's really cool. Again, very out of the ordinary and very unique type of a movie. But again, it's a great story that was told. So overall, I would definitely recommend people watch Poor Things. Overall, though, I would recommend everyone go watch Poor Things. It's a very wacky movie, but it's hilarious. There's so many funny parts. There's going to be a character that you end up kind of, always kind of focusing in on. For me, again, it was either Bella Baxter or it was Duncan. And both of those characters were just freaking hilarious in whatever interaction that they had. But again, definitely would recommend it. Even if you didn't really like going to the theaters, I would still recommend it in this case because of how, again, the practical sets that the film had. Everything looks so colorful. Everything looks so vibrant in these different types of worlds. And as Bella explores the different places, you can kind of get to see the different types of color ways that they used in the environment. So I think it would really pop in the theaters. If not, you could definitely wait for this on streaming. But I still recommend, if you have a chance, definitely check out Poor Things. All right, well, those were my overall thoughts and pros and cons in regards to Poor Things. Again, I had a great time, but I think I really want to now talk about my favorite performance. Like I mentioned, a lot of these performances were so out of the box, so different from other things that we normally see in films, especially for different films that I saw in 2023. And I gotta say that my favorite performance of the film was Bella Baxter, played by Emma Stone. Like I've mentioned, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, there's just so many great things that she does throughout the film. Again, it's really crazy how she has to really portray almost like a baby or a child in a human's body or an adult's body. She's able to, again, not do it in a way that it's very ridiculous, but not make it in a way where you kind of get taken out of the movie, right? She's able to kind of portray like how she can't walk, how she's just kind of being ridiculous and how she eats. And then again, step by step and scene by scene, you see her how she's being able to learn from her environment, learn from other people, learn from observing and seeing different ways on how to perform that. And then you see her speaking, evolve as well. How she's only kind of able to blurt out words at the beginning, and then eventually she's able to kind of complete beautiful sentences because of all the reading that she's been able to do throughout her life. So again, her performance was amazing. She deserves to be nominated, and she deserves any kind of award that comes her way. And Emma Stone, again, she just performs so well in this movie. And again, you feel for her as well as she's going through these different situations that could become uncomfortable, and it's just because of her innocence. And I think Emma Stone really knocked it out of the park with showing that innocence of Bella and showing how, yes, she could be innocent and she's just curious, but she won't change like that. She will try to remain that same, always being curious and always wanting to learn more and explore the world. So really great stuff. A lot of great, funny delivery of lines by Emma Stone. I mean, she, the first time I started kind of seeing her was in Superbad. And so she would always kind of deliver these kind of funny lines. And she's always on point with these kind of comedic type of films. And here, it's no different. So really great stuff. My favorite performance of Poor Things was Bella Baxter, played by Emma Stone. All right, moving on to my favorite scene or moment in the movie. I gotta say again, my favorite moments were anytime there was Duncan and Bella in the same scene. Mark Ruffalo and Emma Stone, again, they acted like crazy in this film. They had to do some weird and wonky things that they probably weren't used to, but it just works so well. Whenever they were together, those two characters, it was just funny. They would have a lot of sex scenes going on that were hilarious. They would have a lot of scenes where they were just kind of talking together, trying to understand what did Duncan want. Duncan was a guy that, again, he was like a player. He never thought he would fall in love, and then all of a sudden he falls in love with this innocent girl, and he just can't seem to get away from her anymore. And then you have, again, Bella, who just is learning to have sex. She's learning to understanding the pleasures of her life, but then also wanting to understand what else is out there, right? What else is out there besides, having sex with people? What about reading, or what about doing this or that? And, it's just anytime those two were on screen, I was always cracking up because one of them was either making a funny face, one of them was doing some type of a weird action, or one of them was delivering a very comedic line. And so, again, there's not one scene in particular. It's just really every scene that they come out in. They both did great jobs. And again, I know that my favorite performance was Emma Stone, but I gotta also give a huge shout out to Mark Ruffalo. He, again, deserves all the types of awards and any type of recognition that he can get because, again, they both had to really step outside of what they normally do in order to kind of perform these kind of wacky type of roles that they got. And so those were my favorite moments, is anytime Bella and Duncan were on screen in Poor Things. All right, everybody, we have come to the last segment in this episode of the Timeless Movie Podcast. And here we're going to determine whether this movie, Poor Things, is timeless. I know that I've talked a lot of great things about it, about how I enjoyed the story, how I enjoyed the performances, and how I enjoyed really the set pieces and designs. But I will say, though, that for me, Poor Things at the moment is not timeless movie for me. Again, it does have kind of like a potential to eventually become something that you could rewatch, but it's not something that I'm kind of clamoring for, like, yeah, I can't wait to watch this or this. To me, it was a great film to watch once, and it was a great experience in the theater. But I don't think that I would have like that same type of feeling if I were to rewatch it. As again, I know that some of the things that really caught me off guard are those wacky parts. And I think they wouldn't have that same type of value if I were to rewatch it again. Again, that's just me from my kind of a perspective. Again, the story is really the main kind of piece of this film that is the great part of it. And that's kind of what would maybe get me back. Because again, just seeing the innocence of Bella Baxter kind of go from beginning to end, and how she's able to kind of really evolve into this really cool character that just wants to continue to get to know this world that she's a part of and get to live it and experience it as much as she can. Other than that, I don't really see myself watching it. I still recommend folks go out there and check it out, just because it, again, it has a lot of hilarious lines, a lot of great actors. But just for me, again, after watching it once, I think that was, for me, a really good amount. Sometimes, again, like I mentioned, one of my nitpicks, some of the wackiness can really go out there, and it could, for some people, it might take you out. It might be like, well, well, what is this like that? I don't get it. Or what's going on? Or why did they have to show that? Again, that could be one of those reasons why maybe I don't see myself kind of rewatching it. Is just because there were certain moments where I was like, oh, okay, well, how does this really serve the story? Or like, what was this, purpose of showing this scene? Or, why did it have to get that kind of wacky? But again, that's just a personal nitpick on my side. To me, the film is still a really great watch, and I still recommend folks go out there and check it out. Again, for me, not a timeless movie, but I really want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about Poor Things? Do you guys think it's a timeless movie? Did you enjoy the performances of Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo and anybody else in the film? Well, let me know down below in the comments, as I want to kind of hear from you guys and interact and get a feel for what you thought about Poor Things. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming back and listening. If you have not checked out my last episode number 55, make sure to go ahead and check it on the channel. It's actually my top 10 movies of 2023, and I had a special guest, my brother Omar Vasquez, on it. So go ahead and take a look and let me know what you thought of our top 10s. Make sure to check out next week's episode, as we're going to be covering the first film that we're going to check out for 2024, and that is the film called ISS. All right, everybody, thanks so much, and have a great rest of your week.